A film I watched recently was Jurassic World Dominion, the third Jurassic World film and sixth film in the Jurassic Park series, originally adapted from Michael Crichton's 1990 novel. Long ago, this was a Steven Spielberg masterpiece. We have seen a string of very unimpressive, very mediocre, to say the least, of its sequels. The Lost World, Jurassic Park in 1997, Jurassic Park 3 in 2001, then after a 14-year break, Jurassic World in 2015, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom in 2017. After a delay for the pandemic, this was finally released in 2022. Um, Bigger and more expansive in scope than ever before. Um, Bigger cast, still directed by Colin Treverrow, and absolutely awful. It does follow on from the end of the previous film, which concluded with a young girl who'd been cloned from the daughter of a tech billionaire, releasing dinosaurs into the wild. In the years since then, they have somehow spread all over the world, particularly the ones that can't swim. And now our two main characters, played by Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt, are living in the woods somewhere with the girl. The velociraptor that Pratt trained in the previous movies has had a virgin birth. The uh, likelihood of a dinosaur Jesus is ignored, as it would make the film more interesting. And the girl and the baby dinosaur are kidnapped by people who turn out to be working for Biosyn, a rival biotech company that's also involved with locusts that are devastating crops all over the world and threatening a major famine, while dinosaurs are apparently just integrating themselves into the food chain and not destroying the ecosystem as it stands. On top of that, we've got the characters from the original film mixed in, played by Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. Two of them do nothing at all, and Laura Dern's character has gone from being a botanist to being an entomologist. The film winds up revolving around a villain played by Campbell Scott, reprising a character very briefly seen in the original film, the one that Dennis Nedry, played by Wayne Knight, was working for, a rival to John Hammond. He is an extremely dull, uninteresting character, played by Campbell Scott. Is a fine actor, but he looks like a photocopy of Tim Cook. This is absolute drivel. The previous two Jurassic World films were awful. The two sequels to the original film were bad. This manages to beat all of them. Um, there is some concept that Universal has that there are legions of Jurassic Park fans who are completely invested in the lore of the original movie and its sequels, and as of such, there is a lot of fan service for them, like bringing back these forgotten characters. And the strange part of the film is how little the dinosaurs have to do with the story, or how little screen time they have. There are some set pieces that add nothing to the story, that are there just as action moments to feature dinosaurs. But for the most part, it feels like another of Crichton's techno thriller novels about genetic modification and the impact on the food chain and ethics and the ecosphere and all that kind of thing, that's been retrofitted to become a Jurassic Park sequel. Um, Crichton's work kind of went off the rails towards the end of his career. He went face first into climate denialism, which seems odd. Maybe the extreme wealth had gone to his brain and shut off the more complicated parts. But his earlier books, like Jurassic Park, The Andromeda Strain, The Terminal Man, are very fine techno thrillers, and they've written various other books like The First Great Train Robbery that are just straight up good airport type novels. The original novel of Jurassic Park, I will stand up for. It's actually very good. A much more mature and complex um, take on material than you would get in the film. The film is precision engineered to be a movie roller coaster, and it's great, but it doesn't have a great deal of depth. And if you want depth, it's in the book. Particularly entertaining is that in the book, Jeff Goldblum's character dies, and then when it was a massive success and Crichton wrote a sequel, it seems that he was simply taken to a better hospital where his condition was upgraded to alive. Um, but going back to Dominion, there's a there's a decent chase sequence around the old town in Valletta in Malta that has dinosaurs running around, that has a brontosaurus in the marketplace that eats someone when they're looking because, brontosauruses are famously subtle. Um, it just feels like a Transformers movie that's had dinosaurs pasted over the robots. It's got an incomprehensible script. It has far too many characters. It has far too much fan service for a fan base that I don't think even exists, or if it does, is certainly not worth pandering to. Um, it's scientific gobbledygook, even at the extreme levels that we're already operating at. The idea that dinosaurs will just find a balance with the rest of nature is completely absurd. Um, it it's just it's junk. It's real junk, and it has no purpose other than to separate gullible and easily impressed audiences from their money. Um, People like seeing dinosaurs in movies. It's still quite impressive when done well, and the Jurassic movies have been coasting on that for well over 20 years. Um, that I don't think there's another movie series where there is such a extreme case of a brilliant, groundbreaking, timeless original, and then a long string of almost unwatchable sequels. Maybe Police Academy. Um, they are now in pre-production for a further film, apparently called Jurassic City. Um, Apparently, Glenn Powell and Scarlett Johansson might be the main players. Notably, Universal didn't bother hiring a director until very late in pre-production because there was no artistic merit to this project of any kind. It's just man management. David Leitch told them to get lost, so they hired Gareth Edwards, who is in desperate need of work after his last film bombed. Um, but this is the first Jurassic film that I haven't seen in the cinema since The Lost World. The only one, in fact, since The Lost World. That I missed because of timing issues. I simply wasn't around when that was released. Um, but I'm glad I missed this. I'm glad I didn't pay extra to see it. I saw it streaming on Netflix. It's a really dreadful film, and it's a benchmark for the lazy shit that studios are now pumping out as blockbusters. Everything that's wrong with cinema today is visible in this movie. This is the reason why studios are struggling. This is the reason why cinema chains are failing. This is the reason why no one wants to go to the cinema anymore because they're trying to avoid dog shit like this.